doesn't say much to me, but his photos are very cool.
Okay, so we've stopped into a hotel room here to talk to Jean-Max about a game that we've just spent a couple of hours playing the first episode of Life is Strange. A game that is one of those modern adventures with an episodic structure and a lot of choices and decisions to make. And can you just take us back to when you first started out on this project, and what kind of vision did you have for it, and what was the motivations to go in this direction?
Sure. So what happened is, going out to Remember Me, we had a series of meetings, this is trying to decide what we're going to do next. And the first time we sat in one of those meetings, basically what we came out with was two things. One, we're going to do something episodic. Two, we're going to use the rewind again, which we used in Remember Me for the memory remixes. Episodic because well, we just wanted to. We're big fans of those games, and we're developers who wanted to try and have a go. Then the rewind, we decided to basically bring it out of the memories into reality, so that we could change entire people's destinies and not just individuals. And from then on, we were like, okay, so how do these two ideas function together? The rewind and episodes. Episodic games are about choices. The rewind can make you take back those choices. So, well, let's use the rewind to question the nature of choice in video games, and let's set the narrative at a time where you make many choices that are going to determine who you become, which is the high school years.
I find it that you're almost making a mechanic out of something that people do anyway. They revert their choices in this kind of game, maybe to a save file before, and to see what happens, at least in the short term.
Yeah, in the short term, but the key to Life is Strange is that actually what you get to rewind is the short-term consequences. But what you cannot expect, and only we know, is the mid-term and long-term consequences. And something that looks very positive in the short term could actually turn out for the worst, or 3 episodes down the line. So, there's a clear distinction there. And we also use the rewind feature in light puzzle segments, where you're going to be able to basically solve riddles based on, being able to foresee the future or manipulate people, because you can basically interact with scenes or talk to people, then rewind that and use that knowledge to your advantage.
I also think that the setting is something that sets it apart, though. It's not just about rewind. It's a very different setting for a video game in many ways, and also sort of speaks to some settings that we may be sort of familiar with. But can you tell us a little bit about this Americana, this vision for a small town in America, and what that means for you?
Sure. I mean, so we did Remember Me. This was 2084, the future, Neo Paris, huge city. We wanted to do something completely different, and we ended up with Arcade Bay, Oregon, small town America, small community, and in between those two, a lot of choices were made, and some of those choices involved wanting to tell an intimate story. So it was this close to being based in Seattle, but we thought Seattle was still too big, and Seattle's not in Oregon, but it's the same kind of mood. So we wanted to have this smaller community where your choices are actually going to impact in more meaningful ways a small amount of individuals, but that impact is going to be very sizable. The second thing is that we wanted a setting that carried this sense of nostalgia that there is to the game. I guess that's us as 35-year-olds looking back onto the high school years. And we always thought of the game, so if the game was a season, it would be autumn. You still have the feeling of the summer behind you. There is a sense of melancholia, and the light is very specific. And that's why we went to Oregon, because in many ways it reflects that feeling. It has a very poetic feel. The light is very specific. The huge forests and the general colors very much lend themselves to that nostalgic and also mysterious atmosphere. And to be fair, I think Scandinavian countries could have been a perfect setting for it too, in terms of the very specific use of light. I mean, it's unique. It's a unique atmosphere. It's very distinctive. But we went for Oregon this time.
I guess it's also like the high school culture and that sort of. It is a very sort of. Well, you have a lot of references to pull from when you create something, and something that a lot of people are familiar with from either from experiencing it or sort of having seen it on TV and in movies.
Sure, I mean it is. We also had a choice to make, which was, do we set it in high school or university? And we realized by talking to people that people are actually most nostalgic over the high school years. I think it's because that's pretty much where, basically I think university is where you make choices that are going to impact your career. High school is where you make friendships, first love experiences, and it's a pretty big tragedy in the in the positive sense, is if that means anything. It's what defines you. It's like a roller coaster every day, and it defines you. Everything is extreme. I always there's totally different, not a direct inspiration, but one of my favorite movies is Battle Royale. And it's totally different from Life is Strange, but what I love about that movie is that it's an extreme metaphor of how nasty and aggressive teenagers can be towards each other. We can mean, for no reason, but just being mean, because we're testing limits, and this is just an extrapolation of that. I think it's a very vibrant setting for anyone alike, adults being taken back to those years, or teenagers wanting to experience something that's akin to what they experience on an everyday life basis. It's just extremely rich.
How do you stay away from, though, falling into the sort of the pitfall of being too cliche, of having the jocks and of them being sort of a little bit flat? How do you stay away from that?
By hiring an excellent writer. He's excellent first in his name. His name is Christian Divine, which is an amazing name to have. Christian worked on the original Deus Ex and Daikatana. He then moved on to web series, and we have loved working with him. We still love working with him. I think he brings what's needed on this kind of game. He brings an American eye. The game being set in America. And I think he's a very good writer. I think every line of dialogue in this game rings true. I think we've also improved over what we did on Remember Me in terms of how we wrote dialogue, the pipelines. Now the source language is English, and then it's being translated, so it doesn't. Nothing is lost in translation. The key is the writer.
All right, so we're not going to spoil anything, because of course the story is sort of the main thing that you're experiencing with this, which is kind of nice that you're not really making any sort of excuses. The story is the key here. But there is sort of a mystery at the core of it. Can you sort of touch on like the players' motivations moving forward throughout the season?
Sure. So Max, the main character, comes back to her hometown of Arcado Bay after 5 years spent in Seattle, and she's there to study photography. She's extremely gifted at photography. And very soon she's going to be reunited with her former best friend, Chloe. That's Chloe Price. And they've been apart for 5 years, and they've grown into two totally different directions. Chloe is very, very turbulent, rebellious. And Max is very much shy, and she much prefers being behind the camera than in front of it. They're the yin and the yang. It's going to be explosive between the two, and what drives them forward, what is going to be the cement to their moving forward together, is that they're going to be setting out on an investigation to uncover the truth behind, as you said, that mystery, the disappearance of a girl called Rachel Amber. She is one of Chloe's best friends. And she went missing. Everyone in Arcado Bay thinks she just ran away from home, including her parents, but Chloe thinks that there's something much darker lurking beneath the surface, and, well, that's what you'll get to investigate playing Life is Strange.
Yeah, I just found that dynamic between the two very sort of fascinating and different. The fact that there's there's almost a little bit of a guilt thing going on there.
Mm-hmm.
It's been 5 years since they even had contact,
Mm.
not just moving away. So there's an interesting dynamic there.
I think, we went for a realistic setting. There are supernatural things, but they're only there to be a metaphor of what is going inside the characters. They're in a conflict. It's universal. It's realistic. Everyone can relate to those themes, those high school years, the type of choices that you made. They're everyday life choices. We're very much influenced by independent movies in that respect. And I think any one of us has had a friend that we kind of forgot for a few years, then saw or didn't see again. And everyone has that friend in the back of our minds that we never saw again, but we looked him up on Google. Are we gonna, somehow reconnect at some point, rekindle our friendship? You never know, but it's everyone has that, and I think that's why you find it interesting. That's why we find it interesting as a story to be told.
All right. And you've set yourself a schedule to come out with these episodes around 6 weeks from the next one. That is good news, because that is something that I've been missing in episodic titles, to sort of be sure that the next one is coming.
Yeah, it is something that we set as an objective from the beginning. It means that all the episodes are in the works as we speak. Episode 2, obviously, but also episode 5. Episode 1 is ready to be launched in just 10 days from now. And we're very happy. It's been a tremendous effort on the part of the production team in particular, everyone on the team also. But yeah, you'll be able to know when to expect the next episode in the series, and that's great.
Great news. Thanks a lot for your time.
Thank you. Thank you very much.